You're in a young, unmarried couple. They say don't go to Burning Man, and they're not wrong.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
Today, we're talking about Burning Man again. Lines. You're gonna have to wait in them. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Chrysantilus. As my goggles may suggest, today we're going to be talking about Burning Man again. Sorry if y'all get sick of it. In this series, I'm doing roses and thorns. If you could think of it as pros and cons, just a little bit more aesthetic. Today, let's get into my thorns. There might be some petals sprinkled on in there. Before you do anything, I'm going to make a card for it right now. Please watch my roses video. So I don't want you to think Burning Man is all thorns. I don't want you to think it's all roses. It's a balance. The first of my thorns is getting used to the porta situation. I just don't camp enough. This is a me problem.
Really? You're complaining about having toilets to use?
Yeah, no, I am. There are some people who camp in RVs, and there are some people who are just high femme snowflakes like myself, you know? So that's where my complaint is coming out of. The people who are watching this who have been to Burning Man will know that these portas are much, much nicer than your standard porta potty. There's this technology in them that keeps them from smelling, and that's super nice when it's used the right way. You know, towards the end of the week, things can get a little gnarly, but my complaint is not the porta pots. My complaint is getting over myself to get used to them. I will say that some of the porta potties, many of them in fact, are taken over. They're snatched into aesthetic, just pure aesthetic. This is an example of a Tilda Swinton porta potty that I saw. Number 4 is the lines. So there are 80,000 people out in the desert. Gotta be ready to start waiting in some lines. Like, some of my favorite lines from Burning Man were for food, and the food ended up being great and amazing. And you know, it's just this like metaphor for a life lesson about mindfulness and waiting and anticipation and just the pure joy of that. I have a
Meditation practice.
So waiting in lines, I really take that time to meditate. One line I waited in was for midnight poutine. I was in that line for over an hour and a half before the joint event opened, but I got my midnight poutine and it was a heavenly, sacred experience. This is my number 3. I would get some heat for this next one, but sorry if you went to Burning Man and I was there and you broke up with somebody, but the couple curse was real. Please don't roast me or come for me. Friends, if this was you and I was there, I was but a witness. I'm passing no judgment on anyone right now, but the couple curse is absolutely real. Especially if you are unmarried, you're in a young, unmarried couple. They say don't go to Burning Man, and they're not wrong.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
The amount of people I've seen or have directly experienced, you know, who have gone out to Burning Man with like someone they're talking to. Burning Man is a revelatory environment. And so what it does is it reveals. For couples, if you go out there and you're in a serious couple that wouldn't have lasted for another like 3, 5, 10 years. And I mean, I would love to team up with a sociologist or something on this one. But my theory is that Burning Man accelerates relationships by 10 years. So if you were in a situation where you were gonna end up with this person in 10 years anyways, like y'all serious, y'all hardcore, like, okay, could work, Burning Man could work. But if you're not gonna be with this person within a year and Burning Man takes it 9 years past that, arguments between couples, you know, established couples are a thing you might see out there. I literally have experienced people just become completely different people. You think different. It could be, again, People have been more revealed people out there. And in some ways, that is awesome and good and evolving. But in other ways, it can be very sobering. Okay, another thing is privilege is real. People who can go to Burning Man right now can afford to take 7 days out of their life. They can afford, most of us, to get on a plane. We can afford to, you know, pay for bus and camp fees and tickets and all this kind of stuff. There's really nothing special about burners. We're just the people who have the privilege to be able to go to Burning Man. Do you know how many people, if they could just click a button and go to Burning Man, would go to Burning Man? I fully recognize my privilege in being a freelancer, able to go to Burning Man, able to save my money, etc., etc. They're the burners that recognize their privilege. They're the burners who think that they are, you know, special in some kind of way. Like, they're the ones that are ready to be at Burning Man. You know, it's not their privilege, it's just that everybody else isn't ready to be here. Like, you know, everybody else couldn't handle this. Everybody else isn't ready to see all these things. Like, I think that's baloney. We're not special, we're just the ones who are able to. So many more people would go to Burning Man if they could, and like, not recognizing your own privilege to be there is a flaw. I will say that the vast majority of the burners that I've met, I know and I love, especially in the DC burner community, have their privilege totally in check. And it's like not a thing. This is for maybe like a 1% of burners that I've had to encounter. And you know what? Shout out to DC burners, because I love y'all. Like, burning, you know, I feel like we got that in the bag. We're privileged to even know about Burning Man. Like, that's what I tell people. Knowing about Burning Man is a privilege. Like, to even know that this goes on is a privilege. Burning Man itself has created low income tickets, and higher up, I know that they're aware of this. I've seen a lot of people on the institution side of it, you know, try to even that out as much as they personally can. This last one, a lot of burners probably saw coming, but currently at Burning Man, consent and consent culture is a work in progress, as it is at other regional burns and, you know, festivals. This goes for a lot of older burners that I meet versus younger burners. I don't really have to deal with this. It goes for a lot of dude identifying people, whereas non-dude identifying people, I don't really have to deal with it so much. Most of what that looks like is unwarranted ambush hugs. And I'm not really one to complain about being hugged, because I love myself some hugs. At Burning Man, there are some people where that is just like, you can barely get your name out of your mouth introducing yourself to them, and then it's just like a whoo, like coming from the side. It's like a martial arts hug or something. You don't see it coming. It's a little uncalled for, and a lot of the times it's super awkward because it didn't feel super warranted. I think for a lot of people, maybe it comes out of a place of anxiety, like, oh, hug, nah. It's like, no, I don't want those kinds of hugs. You know, the hugs that I love are ones that someone's like, eh? Huh? What I like to say is, you know, are you a hugger or are you a shaker? And I'll even do a little bit like this, you know, I'll even fake you out a little bit, so I can be like, ah, get in there, you know. That's just how I do. From the younger burners, it's like, oh, I would love to offer you a hug right now. It's put so poetically, it just like blows my mind. So, you know, you're showered with that with younger burners, but with like a lot of older burners, it's just like, when you really work for this hug, you know what I mean? Like, there are a few things that need to happen before a hug happens. You know what I mean? You need to put in a little bit of work right there. So, not that big of a deal to ask somebody if they want a hug. It's not that big of a deal to gesture before you go in, you know? These are just like little tweaks and things, because, you know, as soon as you offer me a way too quick, unwarranted hug, my thought is just like, whoa, this person is not an asker. I'm an asker. I always ask, you know, I have an amazing handshake if you do not want to hug. And if you don't want to hug, thank you for taking care of yourself, you know? That's what I've heard younger burners say, and as a proper response to someone who doesn't want to hug is like, thank you for taking care of yourself. Whereas an older burner who, like, you know, you have to like duck and cover when their hug comes because it's like awkward and you don't see it coming. That's consent in terms of hugging. I've had people like come up to me, touch my hair. Don't love that. I know it's great and I know it's touchable, but I think it's, again, the amount of like bodily entitlement that some people have. You kind of feel like you're interacting with just like a mindless zombie because it's like,
That's so nice. Oh my god, like wow, look at your jaws.
and people mean it as a compliment, but what it actually feels like is entitlement. And I mean, you can ask, yo, can I touch your hair? But people are too afraid to ask that because they know you're probably gonna be like, why? Or nah. So, you know, they just go straight for it. That can be exhausting when it's happening a lot. It's all part of consent culture. You see it growing, you know. We did a camp orientation for my camp, and half of it was talking about consent. We were even giving consent cards. I appreciated that. I appreciate all of the initiatives around consent for not just Burning Man, but greater evolving consciousness, festival culture, etc. It's my hope in the future that Burning Man gains a greater variety of privilege. You know, things take time. Being out there as a, you know, indie filmmaker from Baltimore, I feel like things are changing. And I see that within the people I meet a lot. That's all part of going to Burning Man. You never know what is going to happen, and you never know what will be revealed. So, if you liked this video, please subscribe. If you want to see more Burning Man videos, please let me know in the comment section. If you have any video requests for my experience with Burning Man or burner community ideas, what it's like to be a DC burner, what it's like to be a black burner, what it's like to be a queer burner, I can answer all those questions and I happily will. Please write them in the comment section. If you guys dig this video, please subscribe to my channel, and I promise you that I will make more Burning Man videos. Peace.